In this video, I'm going to show how to define a study area and then use that study area definition to tell Web Soil Survey what is the extent of the soils data that we would like to download, map, and analyze. I'm going to focus for this example on the town of Potter in Yates County, which is right here. Recognize that because we've worked with it before. Could also recognize the town of Potter by using the Identify tool and seeing that its name is Potter. I could also go into the attribute table, select town of Potter, and discover that the selected feature is the one I thought was the town of Potter. Or I could even go ahead and ask for properties and symbology or labels, name, and say OK. And as always, turn on the button that indicates we do want them turned on. So that is the town of Potter. It's very convenient that this particular town is now selected in this way, and that gives me the ability to right-click on the layer which contains all of the towns of Yates County, ask for data, and export data, and given several choices, I'm able to, this one needs more explanation, which isn't necessary today, and this one is provides a destination for where this layer is going to be sent to, and I've already finished that task, so I'll say cancel instead of OK. And what happens, the result of that, is that I now am able to have a layer that's only the town of Potter, as shown here. So there's one complete shapefile with only one feature, and that represents the boundary of the town of Potter. I've gone ahead further and taken that shapefile and compressed it into a zip archive, which is done by selecting a group of files, in this case the group of files that make up a shapefile, and then clicking and saying send to compressed archive. So I've done the reverse process that you typically do, which is downloading a zip archive from Blackboard and then unpacking it. I've taken a shapefile and packed it up and created a zipped shapefile called Potter, which is a shapefile containing the one feature, which is the boundary of the town of Potter. I can proceed then to Web Soil Survey, which I found by Googling Web Soil Survey, and then I can start Web Soil Survey with the conveniently placed start button, and I am going to define an area of interest, and this is already left behind, and ask for a new area of interest. I'm going to clear the area of interest and go back to the world. So this is what the Web Soil Survey looks like when it's first opened, if you haven't been working on it in a particular session. Now it's possible to, now I can show you how we tell Web Soil Survey what area we would like to study the soils in. And that's called the area of interest. And I can go ahead and say create area of interest from a zipped shapefile. Choose the file, and there's the zip archive. Again, so it's a shapefile in zip format, compressed into a single file, and I can say set area of interest, and we will, that's just a warning. It's not even a warning, it's informational. And now the Web Soil Survey has read in the Potter shapefile and has shows the area of interest is the Potter town of Yates County. An interesting soil and land use right here in the middle of it. and we may see what soil type that is shortly. So this is the study area from which we'd like to get the soils, and that's generally step one. There is a nice sequence of tabs across the top right here, which helps us to go through the sequence of looking at soils data, analyzing soils data, and grabbing a shapefile of the soils data right here. Now we can go ahead, ask for a soil map of this area of interest, which we've just defined, and there is the soils map. And at this scale, it is somewhat crowded. So in a way, it's not a good cartographic product. In another way, it is, because it was very easy to create and very correct. Examining the tables here, we can see the number of acres of each soil type, and we can also see the percentage of each soil type. So if we scroll down and just watch the scrolling, it looks like Honeoye loam, 3 to 10% slopes. That's 13.7%. That seems to so far be the largest single land use or soil type within this study area within the town of Potter. So that's a soils map, and it's possible to ask for a printed version and go ahead and say ask for a printable version of this map. Right now it's an on-screen version, and we'll ask for view of that printable map, and shortly we should see a very, very nicely formatted, perhaps not perfectly cartographic version of this soil map, which can be saved as a PDF. And so soils map can be created, very convenient, and the scale is poor. It forced out the labeling, which is problematic, but at a smaller scale it would label the soils, and it does provide us with the soils report as well. Moving back to Web Soil Survey, it's also possible to ask the Web Soil Survey to provide us with a data interpretation or a soil interpretation, and that process is called the Soil Data Explorer, and we can choose among many different options for getting a report of how useful each of these particular soils is. Maybe we can begin, or I can show by example, the usefulness of any of these soils for playgrounds. And I can ask for playgrounds and say view rating, and the report of this is not looking very good. And apparently many of the soils, the majority of the soils in the town of Potter, are judged according to the standards set up by Web Soil Survey as being very problematic for playgrounds, and it seems in most cases it's due to excessive wetness, very limited. Some have excessive slopes, some have wetness. So regardless, not to get into the details of what the judgment criteria are for playgrounds, the Web Soil Survey tells us that to find an excellent site for a playground in the town of Potter is problematic, either due to stoniness, shallow soils, poor drainage, or excessive slopes. So that's one example of what a Web Soil Survey can do for you. The next button allows one to download this actual soils data, and to do that you create a download link. It'll chop the soils to the extent of Potter town, and take a moment to do that, and it'll shortly provide us a download link, and that download link will provide a a zipped archive of a soil survey soon. Coming back from the pause, the web soil survey for Potter is done, and it's a little hard to find. It's down at this part of the screen. If we click on it, it'll download a zip archive, which, as you're familiar with, it is possible to double click on it, right click on the folder that's in it, ask for copy, and just drop it on the desktop, for instance. And given that we've just downloaded a soil survey, and they do come in shapefile format, it is possible to go ahead and search the desktop for this strangely named, it's at 10:14, 12:03 p.m. I guess, and ask for spatial. There's vastly more information in one of these downloaded soil surveys actually than just the boundaries of the soil mapping units, but that's all we're going to do for a start. And there's a polygon shapefile called soil mapping unit A of the area of interest, and that's the one that can be downloaded. And what's shown here is the boundaries of the soil types in Potter. You can right click and say zoom to layer, which will shortly show us the same boundaries as we visualized before. And for a little extra, we can ask for properties, labels, map unit symbol, label, and say OK. And it will attempt to load the various labels for and squeeze in the labels as best as possible. We can zoom in and see the level of detail of the soils that's provided by Web Soil Survey. And returning from the pause again, you can see that there's tremendous detail. The roads network is visible here, and we can see the different soil types and the scale and detail that's provided for each. And there's an enormous world of analysis and mapping possible with soils data beyond this very small introduction. But I'll end there.